Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Great Awakening Generator. I'm your host, Rose McNair, and today we have got Dr. Darag and we are continuing with our series called Dr. Darag Speaks, and this is episode 4. Welcome, Darag.
Thank you. Thank you, Rose.
Yes, so thank you again for coming back and talking to us. We are continuing with Health is Multifaceted. But before we do that, I want to apologize to everyone who tried to get episode 2. Episode 2 was entitled COVID, to Fear or Not to Fear. Perhaps I was a bit bold in my narrative or the title of that episode, but it was an awesome episode. I mean, in less than 3 hours, there was about 25 views of it, and then it was taken down. And the reason I got that it was taken down was that it breached some of the medical misinformation policies, acts, or whatever that YouTube has. So don't worry, we are looking at other options for that episode. So watch the space. Okay, so Darag, we've been talking, last week we were talking about continuing with the concept of the 7 points of health is multifaceted, right? And we spoke about 2 points or 1 point in the last week. Mm-hmm. What are we talking about today?
Well, I thought I'd do goals today before we move further into the actual, because we've covered the whole idea of it's about our connection with the divine, the infinite, whatever you want to call it. And it's about giving that relationship, treating it like a relationship, not just something that's here when you want it.
Yeah.
Treating it like a real relationship, and how to get the most out of that, how to evolve that further. And then we looked at your emotions and beliefs that actually stop that happening. And bringing the focus basically onto that. And then goals is really about then how you take that relationship and put it out into the world, what you want to create. So that's why I thought I'd do goals now.
Okay, that's great. Remind us, please, about the 7 points.
Well, the 7 I came up with was first one, it's your connection with the divine. Second one, it's about our relationship with whatever inside of us, emotions, a particular, gremlin, the cloud or clarify that connection. It's about getting those things, just learning to be aware of those. And we talked about the witness state last time.
Yes.
Yeah. And then the next step, which we'll start with next week, it's about our relationships with others that spring from our ability to, or our inability to handle number 1 and 2, meaning if we're not connected to ourselves in the divine inside, it's really hard to connect with others.
Yes.
And instead of going through all 7 and like just 7 episodes, we're going to chunk it, separate it off and handle the big emotions.
Yes.
Guilt, fear, anger, grief, things like that. So we'll do a session on each of those. And then number 4 is about our relationship with our body. So it's looking at it as our body as a channel to communicate with the divine and how to express that in the world. And so we need to know what works to enhance our resonance with life itself, really.
Yes.
And what makes our body feel like a good channel.
Okay.
And that's got something to do with eating and things like that as well.
Yeah, and then also how we treat our body. How much of it do we, how do we treat it? Do we treat it like the divine temple that it is, it is a divine temple that houses the soul is outside of us. We think the soul is inside of us, but the body does hold, has a connection to the external anyway, part of us. So you can't not have the connection without the body.
Yeah. Well, you can, but the body, I think the idea of coming into the body is it makes it more intense.
Okay. So that's right. That's right. You can.
Awareness.
Yeah, that's true. Sorry, I spoke without thinking there, because really you can have your soul. That's where it's in its perfect state. But in this time and space, because we are here on Earth and we started off with the 3rd dimensional physicality, this is why we have that connection, right? It's when we leave this body that we have that complete state of also. Now that's a completely different topic, but I just wanted to clarify because I said something there that was not quite on track. I want to comment very quickly because last week's topic when you talked about relationship with the divine and then relationship with the, say, your partner or whatever, I'll say this, and I know I digress now, but it's about that topic, and I hope that my take on it, I keep thinking about many years ago after I'd gotten divorced, I'd gone through this process of finding myself, and you know how you do that journey about soul searching and all of that. Well, most people do anyway. Yeah. And I had a real circumcision of the heart where I realized how important it was for me to have my divine connection in the right way, because that divine connection would always help me to, for example, if I wanted another relationship, help me find that next relationship and give me more intuition about what it was going to be like with that person, or was that person the right person? Because the next relationship had to be very good. It had to be the right one. I was a single parent, and I needed to be able to take my child into a relationship that was going to be good for both of us, not just me. So I think for me, that was when I learned the very big importance that having the divine connection is. How important it's paramount over everything, because that's what helps you function into the other parts of your life, and you can do it from a higher perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah.
So goals. Tell us about goals. If I jump the gun, I'm sorry, but you can tell us what.
No, that's good. We can, I'm just getting through to my notes.
Yes.
And because all I've written is in that book that I've got for free, Light, Love, Laws, and Lies, which is on my website, and anyone can read that anytime. Yes. And the chapter I came up with for goals was: is a goal worth pursuing, or is it merely more jail time? And I think we all have this experience of we've strived for something, climbed a ladder or whatever, ended up in a relationship, and we just found out that ladder's on the wrong wall, or the relationship we thought was going to be heaven turns into hell.
Yes. Yes.
So yes. I think we've all had that experience of having a goal and having it just go, and on the surface of things, having it go completely haywire.
Yes. Yes.
But that in itself is what life is trying to teach us.
Yeah.
And it's like how we look at goals that actually make the difference, I believe. And that's what I was going to talk about today. And but I'm sure we can all think of something in our own lives. And if you're listening to this, have a think about, something in your life that applies to you, something you really wanted and you got, whether it was a relationship or a thing or a career or work. And then everything just turned to custard.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you envisioned it turning out to be a certain way, and you got there and you discovered, oh my gosh, it's nothing like I thought.
Yeah, nothing like that at all.
Yeah.
So, and a clue as to how that happens is we tend to think, when we think of a goal, when we tend to think of something we want, we tend to think about it as filling a hole, that there's a big need inside. And so we look to fill it somehow. And, whether that's relationship, clothes, food, career, anything, is just that filling that hole. And so the idea I was looking at that sentence, that goal and jail. Another version of writing jail is GAOL.
Yes.
The goal is GOAL, and jail is apparently because of some difference between Normandy and Parisian French or something.
Okay.
The word jail, the way they spelled it, GAOL, sounds the same as our JAIL.
Yes. Yes.
But that sort of, and I always thought when jail was, because I knew that thing, the jail could start with a G, but I thought it was spelt the same as goal.
Yes.
And then when I was researching to write the book, I realized it was actually spelled GAOL. So I had that all wrong. And apparently that word, as jail, has been written as GOAL on tombstones and everywhere else. So it's like,
wow.
It's a common misperception of spelling.
Yes. Yeah. And I've actually heard people say, I'm in Gaol, not in jail.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the old movies and something like that, I'm in Gaol, or I could get into Gaol, and you're like, okay, that means jail.
Yeah, exactly.
But actually, they meant to say jail, not Gaol.
Yeah. The pronunciation was wrong because it looked like the right spelling. But that
Oh,
got me
wow.
thinking of the O and the A, and I came up with this idea to look at goals as in the word goal we have the O before the A, and that's, if you think of O as omega and A as alpha, that's
Yes.
the ending and the beginning. And I should actually probably do this the other way around so you can see it on the screen differently. But so it's like when we think of a goal, we think of the ending, we think of something we want that's going to make us feel differently.
Yes.
So we actually want to feel differently. That's what we want.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we think we have to do something to get that. You have
Yes.
to have an end. We have to achieve that end in order to get what we want, to actually feel the difference we want inside.
Yeah.
And so that's like putting the cart before the horse. And it's like we really need to start to get out of jail. JOL, use that as a clue. As the way to get out of jail is to put the alpha before the omega.
Yes.
So to put what's going on inside before the thing that you're trying to create.
That's right, because it's always about what is spurring on the idea of that goal. Where is the source of it, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like making that relationship with the divine important. Is something to be devoted to. It's about realizing there's more to life than the physical things. And we think the physical things are going to satisfy us and make us happy, but maybe it's about learning to be happy where we are.
Yeah.
And learning to expand that happiness.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting way to put that. Actually, to be happy in the now, to be accepting of the now.
Yeah.
And then no matter what you're aiming for, it's like, the journey. Take the journey. Don't worry about the end result. The end result will follow. Not don't worry about it, but the end result will follow.
Yeah.
That goal will appear.
Yeah. It's like, I'm sure we can all make a long list of everything we think we need in order to be happy.
Yes.
And what we might find when we start writing that list is it's actually endless.
Yeah, I know. I'll have an endless list as well.
It just keeps on going.
Yeah.
And then we have that other idea that if you think you've just got this one life, then you've got to pack all that into one life, which adds extra stress.
That's true, because we think it's only about this time. It's only about now. It's only about this life.
Yeah.
I better do it before the end is here, So, yeah.
So really it's about, I said here, it's about the recognition of and expansion of our relationship with the divine.
Yeah.
And so it's also not about giving up on goals, but it's about reorienting to it.
Yeah, I think reaffirming, searching within yourself. Okay, I want this thing. Why do I want it? Do I want it because someone has told me it's a good thing to have and you should have it? And okay, what was their perspective when they suggested that? Because people suggest things to us, they have their own agenda. So we have to think about, okay, where does that come from? We also have society that says it's important to have that EV or electric vehicle. That's the way EVs are the way to go now. And so you should do it. But okay, is that your goal? Is it society's goal? It's even like if you watch an advert on TV or on YouTube or something like that, and you think, oh, it sounds so wonderful. I should have that. Remember in the old days, in the 80s especially, I know I was a teenager, they'd have all these amazing adverts for perfumes. And I was crazy about perfumes, right? And it's like, and I still remember some of this. Do you remember Jovan used to be, it was an advert. I mean, it wasn't for me because that was for men, right? But I remember, I still can hear the man saying Jovan, almost implying that you could be a sex symbol with Jovan if you wore this, that sort of thing. And then everybody was using it. Well, I was in South Africa, and I tell you what, it was like, there was this advert for some fragrance, and they would show this thing of Fiji, and you think Fiji, oh my gosh, this exotic place, oh wow. But then you tried it on and realized it actually did not suit your body scent or whatever, But so again, what was the goal in getting that perfume? Who started
Well,
it?
I mean, the advertising is brilliant in the way it actually uses your emotions, the things they think you want,
Yes.
and the ways you want to feel.
Yeah.
If you do this, you'll feel a particular way. If you buy an EV, you'll feel righteous.
Yes, exactly.
You'll be doing good for the planet,
Uh-huh.
even though it's proving to be completely wrong.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
but that's the whole thing. It appeals to the emotions, and that's where you've brought it up. That whole idea of, I say, follow. We've all been taught to follow our dreams,
We
but the
have.
question is, who is the dreamer?
Yes.
And is the dreamer that I call the difference between the divine self and the little self, the personal self, the big M mind versus the small M mind.
Yes. Yes.
So, and is the dream a small d dream, or is it a big D dream? So it's about learning to make that difference. So which mind is doing the dreaming, and therefore whose goal is it? Is it the small M mind's goal, or is it the big M mind's goal? And so that's where you need to look at what you think you want. We've all got things that are the next step in our lives. What do we think we want? Where is that coming from? It's about getting into the witness state with our goals.
Yes.
So it's learning to sit above it and seeing, where is this coming from?
Yeah.
And some clues are a small M mind goal tends to be, remember I said we tend to go for a goal that fills a hole.
Yes.
So does the goal you're thinking of, does it bring up a sense in you that there's a need or a lack? So that whole idea, if there's a sense of lack or need or greed or hunger for something you haven't got, that's a sense that's a goal coming from the small.
Yeah.
Whereas the whole idea of a big M mind, it's more of an idea of there's a saying, there's a chant that as part of what I learned in India. It's I won't do the Indian version, but the translation that I heard, and they have different translations to it. Somebody used the word infinite instead of this word fullness. And I really like the word fullness. That was the one I learned. I don't think I like it just because of that. I think I like it because it brings that idea that what we're looking for in a goal is a more fullness.
Yes.
And so the quote is, "This is full, that is full. From fullness, fullness comes. Take away fullness from fullness, and fullness remains." So in terms of a clue as to how you feel if you're going for a big, if the goal is coming from an inspiration from within to progress life and from a state of fullness to another state of fullness, then that's what you're looking for. And that's what I do when I think about. I come up with a couple of examples to think of to just share from my own life. We lost a chunk of our family inheritance when we trusted our accountant to do a property investment with our money, and we ended up losing it. But when I think of the feelings that were going on in me, there's this thought that, we could have bought a house with that, and this was like 20 years ago.
Yeah. Wow.
And and so we could have bought a house with that, and had some small but regular income, and but instead we thought, I had the thought that I need more income at that time. So I went through that process of talking to the accountant about what else I could do with the money, and he came up with this idea and ended up losing the money. But when I look back at the feelings that created that process, it was more a thought that I didn't appreciate the fullness that was there, and I thought I needed more. So that whole aspect came in where you could see my big M mind and my small M mind.
Yeah.
I was focused on the small M mind at that time. And so that's where, something you think is going to turn into heaven turns into hell.
Yes. Yes.
So that's an example I came up with myself for a goal. I thought I wanted a better cash flow, and instead of having a property that would now be, say, worth $1 million, plus I have nothing
Mm.
for that
Yeah.
chunk.
Yeah.
And so that's painful, but it shows that I know that the internal feelings. If I look back at what I was experiencing at the time, it was a lack of appreciation for what I had, and a sense that I just needed something more. That what I had wasn't enough.
Yeah.
I think we can all look at goals, think like that, and then see how our small end mind is actually playing. And if that's going on, then that's maybe a time to actually let that sense of need go, and you need to start shifting back into that sense of fullness.
I so agree with that. And, I'm sorry that it happened to you. I've got to say that because, having lived life, the many years I've lived life as well, we always, at the time, we can only do what we do or what we are doing with what we know. And I have to say, like, it's very interesting you're talking about this, because right now in this time and space, it is so relative and relevant for us to know exactly how we're taking the steps forward in our lives, how we're living our day-to-day life, what is the purpose behind it, because we're really being called to be our authentic self. My experience with this goal thing is I'm going through something at the moment where, and I'm really questioning that, work, for example, and I'm really trying to figure out what my goal is in terms of work, because I don't have a goal. I have a goal. I've read through my journal last night, and in so many places I have a goal and it's there, but I keep putting it down in different forms. But what I found is, in this time, my goal, I've been talking to my guides about something, and I've been saying, I want this, and I want to see this thing return, come back to me and present itself, because my goal is to be debt free. My goal is to be able to afford all my expenses, all of those things, right? But I was reminded that I don't say thank you enough.
Yeah.
And when I'm asking for something, because of the way the last 3 years have been, and I'm coming out of a dark night of the soul, I've been really mad at them. And they're not punishing me because it's not presenting itself, but they're teaching me there is something more to look for beyond that. That goal I have, there's something more to look at, and everything will come to it. It will get better, but I'm learning. I'm becoming fuller in this time of learning. And so my goal at this point is I have to still take the journey and be grateful, be appreciating in every moment. So you see, the lesson sometimes, yeah, and I would have thought I'm always thankful, but I'm always thankful, but I have stopped. I've really been caught up on the fact that I sometimes did, like, they say you say grace before you eat your meal. It got to be very religious to me, and then I stopped doing that because I thought, oh well, I create my own reality. I've created this food, so thank you, Rosie. You created the food for yourself. But it doesn't just come from me. It comes from all things bigger than me as well. And being thankful for the little things means that you can, every day, if you can be thankful for the things you have, and it doesn't mean you're groveling, it's just saying I'm appreciating, then more things will present themselves. So I'll see my goals come to fruition. I know it's a bit of a digression, but I see what you're saying when you're telling me, when you're talking about this.
Yeah. Well, it's really about whether the goals come to pass or not isn't the real goal.
Yeah.
It's the connection that's the real goal.
It's the connection.
And it's the appreciation of the fullness. So that connection comes from the appreciation of the fullness within.
Yes.
And then from that fullness, you will want to expand it. Like for me, the example of that success in my life is the times when I had relationships which were based in some kind of sense of lack or need. Yes. And then finally coming to the terms with, like you said before, with your own journey, we had to realize that relationship within. And when you could admit that and work with that, then all of a sudden you find that your relationships with others take on a different tack.
Yes, definitely.
And then you can end up in a relationship that actually has the fullness you are and expands it.
Yeah.
And that's the, you know, my family's been one of the top joys in my life, you know, and there's nothing like it that's come out of that.
Awesome.
And that's had to come from experiencing a fullness in myself, and then wanting to expand that into life. And I think that's what, you know, in terms of your goal of wanting to create business success, or anybody's goal like that, it's whether the business success comes isn't the thing to focus on. It's the fullness of doing what you're doing.
Yes, absolutely.
And then it'll either come or not. Who knows? It's a very interesting time in the world.
It sure is. And who knows what it's going to turn out to be like. And it's also like, you know, sometimes when we have goals, we have an idea of how it should look.
Exactly.
And we're like, oh, if it's not looking like that, it can't be it. Where we sort of sit with, okay, I'm not going to go in that direction because, well, that's not what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, if you just took the step, if you just went with your gut and with what you're being led to, it could just be such a joyride. It could be such an awesome thing. You could get everything you want and more, just because you let your mind be open and your heart be open.
That's because we don't actually know what we want.
True.
We think we know what we want. Like when Sally and I got together, we had a certain point in our relationship where neither of us looked like because there's that early game, some people write down a list of their ideal partner, what they look like, what they do, and all that kind of stuff. And so we had those lists, and neither of us looked like what was on that list in terms of a physical person.
That's a good lesson to learn in life, isn't it?
It is, yeah. She wanted tall, dark, and handsome, and I wanted. I'm not going to talk about that, but we had one moment where we were waking up in bed together, and we just, you know, cuddling in the morning, and we had this thought. I'm not sure who expressed it first, but it kind of came at the same time. Is that I just want to feel the way I feel with you.
So awesome.
There wasn't anything about the look.
So beautiful. So beautiful. That is how it should be.
Yeah, it was about that felt experience of being together. This is how I want to feel in a relationship.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and that's proven true right through.
Yeah, good. And it's the journey starts the journey to unconditional love, I feel. You know, when you sort of, and that is the thing that is the thing mostly, I think, that will keep relationships going for 50 years, 60 years. Or well, you know, for the duration a relationship has got to be, because you don't, the tall, dark, and handsome, because I was talking about tall, dark, and handsome too when I was younger.
Seems to be a common theme.
Well. I was, but I just found that for me, as I've gotten older, it's more about connection and how I feel when I'm with that person. And there are bigger things. If somebody can give you that safety, that feeling of safety and being in tune and just, you know, having so much in common and just knowing I am home with this person, you know, it forfeits tall, dark, and handsome any day. So yeah, no, it's good. What a journey we take sometimes, right?
We do.
Yeah. So I guess one of my last few questions would be, what would you say to somebody now who's like, after listening, is realizing what would be their first step to go to? And I know we talked about this and about about having a relationship with the divine, because it seems like everything comes from that having relationship with the divine, right? And we talked about, oh, you could do certain things, you could do mindfulness practice, you could do meditation, all of that stuff there. But if somebody's realizing it, what could be, do you think, an initial step that they could take to start realigning?
Oh, well, then we go back to that whole thing we talked about on session 2, I think. Oh, no, it was session 3, because we did COVID at session 2. So it was session 3. And that's really, you know, but to bring it into the context of goals, it's also about the learning to witness like the whole way of realigning and getting connected to yourself we talked about, learning to just sit in the witness state, to not try and get anything from that relationship because it's already there, but we just don't see it. We don't feel the fullness of it, right?
Yes.
So in order to feel the fullness of it, we've just got to be aware of how we're keeping it out. And that's, sitting, meditating on your breath, just letting it come and go, watching the thoughts come and go.
Yes.
Watching the feelings coming and go. And if you have that witness state, then all of a sudden you'll realize that you'll feel a certain, we call it, we focus on love, joy, and peace.
Yes.
That when those three things come together, then that's the experience of the divine within you. And so but the way we need to find that is we just need to pull away the layers that are covering it up.
Yeah, it's a good starting point, isn't it? When you reflect on what you when you observe, you witness, what is it that the state of things are currently? Because I think that's important, and then go within and sort of find how you navigate that.
Yeah, it's realizing that those feelings are just surface feelings.
Yeah.
And something deeper inside. But if you try to grapple with the feelings and struggle with them, you'll just lose yourself for a long time.
Yeah, indeed. Absolutely.
And so it's really, really about learning to sit from a point of view above them. And then when you do that, at a certain point, they just drop away.
Yeah, very important to be easy about it with yourself. No hammering yourself, just be easy about it, because self-love is necessary in everything right now. Yeah.
And it's the realization that we think we're separate, but we are not.
Yeah.
It's in realizing, it's in letting those things go that you realize that you're connected. And then it's about, if you can recognize that for what it is, then it becomes easy.
Yes, absolutely.
And then that becomes a moment-to-moment thing.
Yeah.
And then it's about applying, in terms of what we've been talking about, goals, it's about learning to apply that sense of witnessing to that, what we talked about, the small M mind versus the big M mind. And then looking at the cues inside. Are you coming from a point of neediness for wanting that goal? Or is it a point of fullness where you want to expand into life?
Yes. Yeah.
And so that I think that's, I've always tried to simplify things for myself and other people. And I think that's a good starting point. And that should get you all the way. Like if you look at the feelings you've got in relationship to something you believe is a goal that you've created, then if you go through that witnessing process of seeing whether you're in a real state of need about this, or whether it's a sense of fullness that you then want to expand into more fullness, then you have a sense of whether you want to, whether it's a path you want to follow or not.
Yes.
Goal you want to shoot for. And so I would obviously recommend watching if you're in a state of need, being very suspect of that need and that goal.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're in a state of fullness, then basically it's when you talk about planning for a goal, it's the whole idea that the plan will come when you relax into the mission about it.
Yes.
So that if you become devoted to this, yes, that's what I want to create. I'm not quite sure what my next step is, but just, again, listen. You can come up with lots of ideas and then just figure out, well, which feels the most comfortable in the way I need to go ahead.
Yeah.
And comfortable in the sense of this is a fuller experience rather than I need to do this or I need to do that. So it's really about using that as a focal point to like, it's like a tuner to find out which channel you're listening to.
Sorry, carry on.
And then beyond that, it's just about remembering why we're here. Like a lot of people think we're here just to collect things, but we're here to like manifest the depth of that relationship with self.
Yes.
And that happens with yourself and with other people. But that's the key reason. If we can remember that's the real reason why we're here, that helps you clarify the goal as well.
That's right. It's beyond what we think it is. Being here is beyond what we think it is. And I think in this step of reflection, we start to look at ourselves too and see, hey, why do I function this way? Why am I looking for such certain things? It comes back to like what's within me, what sparks that. If I'm going to get that EV, for example, is it because my friend who's been nagging me and I just want my friend off my back, and I'm thinking, well, I can afford it, so let me just get that EV because it'll just shut this guy up, and he and I will be in the same club now because we both have EVs, you know. And I keep bringing up the EV because it keeps coming to my mind that there's somebody that's I work with that is constantly talking about an EV to one of his colleagues, and is trying to get him to buy one, and I think it's a big ask. And you know, he had a few days where he justified why he was telling everybody about the EV and why he should get it, and then before you know it, I think he's got it, and now he's trying to convince other people to get it. And I that just came to mind, and like, why are you getting it? Because somebody says you should have it, you know. Even if somebody in a high ranking position says this is what you should have now, a person still has to go back and look at, should I do that and why? It's coming back to authenticity. It's coming back to sovereignty of the mind and saying, you know, this is another way you can check yourself on, okay, well, I want that thing. That is my goal, is to get it. Why? Or is to do that. Why am I doing that? Do I want to go travel overseas because my sister does it all the time? Or, you know, for example. Why are we doing it? Guidance system should be the thing that should prompt you to do anything. And if you want to do something, even if you see something that somebody's doing and you think, oh, I'd love to have that experience, go within. Is the answer.
Yeah. Get that right first, and then you'll know whether it's going to be part of your journey or not.
That's right. And you know, I believe that we're here to have fun. I believe that we're here to have fun and have experiences. And that is why sometimes people take steps and we think, oh, wow, I didn't know about that. And then they sort of inform you and you think, oh, maybe I'd like that too. Where's it coming from again? What's it for? Because maybe you feel attracted to having the experience, or is it because I should have that because not only others should have it, I need to have that too. I need to keep up with the Joneses. So So Darag, what else more before we say goodbye to our audience today?
Anything else? I have got nothing else to say more on goals, but just be aware that, you know, like you said, you believe life's about having fun. It is, because life is joy.
Yes.
And, but you don't need things to maximize that joy.
No.
You know, and they might be joyful to have, but you can have the joy without them.
That's right.
And you can have the joy with them, but you shouldn't lack the joy because you haven't got them.
Yeah, live life and be happy despite that. You know, and the point of the matter is that, you know, Madonna song, because we are living in a material world and I am a material girl. Well, let's make a joke of it, eh?
Yeah.
That's all I can say. Because right now, if we ever had to question in life before, now is a big question phase because of the price of everything. And because of all the things that are happening to people, in terms of work and, you know, people being laid off work and things like that. This is where our strength will be seen.
Yeah.
You know,
if there was a time to connect with that being inside, now's the time.
Absolutely. Okay, Darag, anything else before we say goodbye? All
good. Thank you for sharing and having us to share.
Thank you so much for agreeing to share. Thank you everyone for watching and listening. We will catch you next time here on the Great Awakening Generator for the next episode of Dr. Darag Speaks. Bye.
Bye.